That was a crazy week. I remember like first getting there and it was so hot, like I thought I was gonna die. It was so sweaty. And then like I get in this like little tiny jeepney. It's like a little motorcycle or like a tricycle. So it's like tiny. They stuff me in there with all my suitcases and they just like take me away with my companion and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I didn't know what anyone was saying ever. And so it was kind of crazy just kind of walking around like trying to figure everything out. And then actually our first Friday there was a typhoon, and so we had to stay inside because it was that big one in Tacloban. So we didn't get as affected, but like definitely a little bit scary. There were trees coming down, wind and everything. So it was definitely an exciting first week to kind of get used to the Philippines. I think I kind of felt like I'd get there and kind of be like eased into it, like, oh, like you're new, so we'll like work on it, but you just like jump right in. And you know, I didn't know what people were saying, but I could like bear a testimony super short, so I'd do that. Like I didn't anticipate being so involved, I guess, so soon, but just that first night you get out there and you're a missionary. So the people were awesome. I loved the people. They were so nice, and even though like they didn't know what I was saying and I didn't know what they were saying, they still like showed so much love and like they're so happy. So the Cavite Mission is right under Manila. It split off of it about 3 years ago. So it's super tiny. It fits inside Salt Lake County, so super small. There's a few districts and branches. I only served in wards, but I know there's a few. There wasn't a temple in our mission, but there's one in Manila, so it's pretty close. Like we didn't get to go on our mission, but the members are able to go every once in a while. And so like when I served in the wards, there's not as many people as come to wards here, but definitely a bigger turnout than I'm sure some of the districts and ward or branches. We had probably, I think the highest I ever had was like 200. I think it was on Mother's Day because all the moms make their kids come and they're so happy. So yeah, the members are super strong. Like the ones that actually go, you can tell that they love the gospel because they sacrifice everything to get to church. It's not as easy for them as it is for us here. So it's definitely hard to find those who are committed long term, but you can tell that whenever they come to church and whenever they're able to, they're definitely so happy and they're like grateful that they were able to sacrifice that week and come, and they'll try their best to come the next week too. There are definitely a lot of Catholics. Luckily, they're a very Christian nation, so everyone was willing to listen and accept like what we had to say because they love Christ and they're very devoted to Him. I think the problem that they have is they are more, I have Him in my heart, so I don't really have to go to church, I don't have to be baptized, like, you know, I pray and that's good. So I think that was like probably the biggest thing that we had to help them understand was that faith is great, but we have to like act on that stuff. And that was something that was very new to them and different that we had to help them understand. I would really talk to as many people as I could. Like I know I did that towards the end of my mission. I was more comfortable. Like I talked to anybody, but if I was able to go back and start over from like where I am now, I would definitely not pass up an opportunity to talk to someone about the gospel, no matter how maybe uncomfortable it was or like you didn't know how quite to do it. I would just do it anyways because like everyone needs a chance to hear the gospel and they're so open to it. And I think another thing would be to just let them know how much like we are happy to be there and happy to share the gospel with them, because I think sometimes they think like, oh, this white American is in my house, like what do I do? And then, you know, and like they're a little bit more worried about why we're there instead of like listening to the message. So I would just try and really get that into their hearts that we're there to serve and share the gospel with them. So I served from September 2013 to March 2015. My first area was Imus in the 2nd ward, and then I moved to Silang and I was in the Silang ward. It was just one. Then I was in Las Pinas 3rd ward, and then I went to Binan in their ward. So my first area was Imus. That's the flag capital of the Philippines, so that was cool. Lots of flags everywhere. It was more city. It wasn't completely like downtown Manila, but it was definitely more populated than some of my other areas. And it was really, really hot. It was probably, I think, one of the hottest areas in the mission. So I got out right before summer, so that was nice. But yeah, it was great. It was a bigger ward that I served in. They had a bigger chapel definitely, than some of the other ones. Is more developed, I guess you could say. So the houses were probably more relatable to the ones we live in, I guess. They're all made out of cement, but my house was a 2-story, super small, but I don't know, pretty average. Not many people own cars there because it's really expensive and it's just really crowded, so mostly people take jeepneys or tricycles. Along the highways they have big buses and stuff like that. And most of the people in that area travel up to Manila to work. There's not a ton of like real jobs there. I mean, there's like the ones in the mall or like at food restaurants, but there's no really like big career ones there in Imus. So they're pretty close to Manila, so they'd travel up for that stuff. So it was technically part of Metro Manila, so it was cool. I got to serve in like a different part of the Philippines. It's very, very city, industrialized, and lots and lots of people there, but it was a really small area, so we got to know a lot of the people. In that part of my area, even though it was like pretty like popularized, it was more of a poorer area. And so the housing was a little bit different. It was more of kind of where you can find place, you set up your house, and it's a little more condensed, a lot more people in one house or in one area. So it was fun, you know, you got to take the little alleyways and try and find people in different spots and wherever they decided to build their home and set up, I guess. So it definitely came with different challenges. They were more, although they were a little bit poorer than my other areas, they were very prideful, so that's probably my hardest area, that they didn't think that they needed Christ or religion in their life, so that was a little bit harder, but it made it a little bit sweeter when we found those people who were willing to accept the gospel and to listen to us and give us just a little bit of their time so that we could teach them and help them come to know and understand about the gospel there. So it's called Las Pinas, and it's like in Metro Manila, so it's part of our mission still, but it just kind of went up into like one of the suburbs in Manila there. So it was Silang. I was there for 6 months, so that was the longest I was in an area. We actually opened that one. We switched with the elders, so it was a fun one. It's very in the country, I guess, like very you know, the jungly kind, lots of like fruit farms and dirt roads. So it was definitely a big difference from Imus. It wasn't as hot. We were up on an elevation. And we were super close to this volcano. It's called Taal. It's super tiny, but apparently it's still active, and like tons of people. It's like a big tourist thing to go see, and they have like zip lines and lots of fun like amusement parks kind of there. But my area was really big. It was the biggest one that they had at the time in the mission, and so it was a fun, different experience because Imus was a little bit smaller, so we got to travel a lot, and we had a bigger area to work with and more people to reactivate and teach and stuff. So it was really great. It was really beautiful there, and the people were just so awesome there too. I lived in like it's called a Binan. It's kind of like the downtown of the city, but then it just kind of went up, and there's mountains and like little rivers. There's a big river that ran on the backside of our mission, so it was really pretty. It was always green, and they had lots of fruit that would just grow everywhere. It was also really close to, it's called Tagaytay. That's where that volcano is, but that's like probably the biggest thing, like, or closest to our mission. That's popular to a lot of people. A lot of people travel just to go there. They've got lots of like markets and stuff, and like hand-carved crafts and arts and stuff there too. So it was Binan. That one was towards the bottom part of our mission, and it was really beautiful and really different than all my other areas. The people were so great, and they would help us all the time. It was like split kind of in half, more like, it was probably a little bit more city-like, but it definitely had more of the country and kind of isolated areas as well. And in my part of the area, it was definitely more of like Las Pinas. The houses were a little bit closer together, a little bit more just kind of wherever they could find somewhere they'd live. And but these people were so willing to listen. They were so happy to just have time to learn about God and to hear what we had to say. And it was really fun. There was like a river that ran through, so we got to use like this little barge thing, boat. I don't know, it's like you paid them like a peso and you got to go across, and we'd go from side to side to meet our people and to listen and share with them. And that one was a lot of walking. It was a little bit of a smaller area, so we don't have to use as much public transportation, so it was nice. We'd just kind of jeepney or tricycle out there, and then we'd work our way back home, and it would take us all day, and it was just great. It was really hot there too, though, and luckily, again, I got out right before the summer really started, so I got really lucky there. But yeah, it was they have like a little lake there, so a lot of people do fishing there. A lot of people work with like the lake and work on it, and not as many tourists go there. It's not as like a great of lake, but it's across the way from Manila, so you can see it from one side of the lake, so it was really pretty to go to. Oh, they're just really happy people. They make a lot of shoes there too. It's like a shoe capital kind of, and so you get shoes everywhere, and they'd like make them, and so we'd help our investigators sometimes and make them, and definitely like a fun place to shop around. And it was a good place for service projects as well, because you could help people doing what they do and share the gospel at the same time. So, I love everything about them. I don't know, the people are probably my favorite, just because like going in, kind of like I said earlier, I was like really scared, like I didn't know the language I was going to be speaking. I didn't know anybody there, but they accept you so quickly, and I feel like I learned a lot about loving people from them, that they didn't care where you came from, they didn't care why you were there, but they loved you anyways, and they'd share anything with you, even though they were a lot of times short for themselves and their family, but they would give anything that they could, just because of who they were. And that was probably my favorite like thing about the Philippines. But I mean, it's a beautiful country, even though I didn't serve in like the tropical like beaches or anything like that. Like, it was so beautiful, and it really like opened my eyes to like the world that God created for us. It's so diverse, and it's so beautiful. I like saw animals I'd never seen before, and like eating food I'd never eaten before, and like just like experiencing something completely different was really a good experience, and it was very life-changing, I guess, too. And I mean, and even just like the little things, like the way they get around, like transportation is so much different. It's like mostly public. People, like I said, don't really own their own cars, and so like they take buses and jeepneys that are kind of like old military like jeeps, and they just open the back out and you just kind of squish yourselves in, and they have people like taxi, so like little bike, and you hop on and then take you around. So everything was just so different. The language was great too. Like, I'd never even heard of it, and it's such a unique sound, but it's like so beautiful to me now, because like I got the opportunity to learn it and to live like that for 1.5 years. That it was a really unique experience, but it was so great in every aspect too. And so the language was something that I really loved. I've always wanted to learn a new language, and my family is from Chile. Well, my dad is, so I was like, I should learn Spanish, but I never did. So I was just really excited for the opportunity to learn a language that is not common, and I was a little bit scared, but the biggest thing that I could, I guess, say about the language is that it will come. And I kind of felt like I had to be fluent at the MTC, or like I was going to be a bad missionary, and that's like not it at all. And I saw that even though like it was hard and every day I had to like work at it, even up until the end of my mission, you have to work at it, but it'll just come to you. Like, the gift of tongues is so real. And so I think I worried probably a little bit too much about it before my mission. I was so focused on learning it and being good at it that I wasn't able to really let the Lord help me, because I figured that I had to do it on my own. But once I realized that He is so ready to help you, and because He wants His children to learn the language, or He wants us to learn the language, but He wants us to be able to teach the language as well. And so like once I kind of figured that out and I kind of let Him helped me. It came so much easier. And it's a really beautiful language. At first when I was trying to learn it, it was just like weird words that were really long and I couldn't tell where they started or ended. But then like once I started to like figure it out, it's like very, very, I don't know what the word is, like very simple. And it simplifies things so much. Like the Book of Mormon for me is a little bit easier in some parts to understand than the English one because they just simplify it so well. And it's very like literal. A lot of the words put two English words together that make sense. And like reactivation is kind of like a word of like coming back to Christ. So like it's like totally like a beautiful, like very simple language that's a little bit complicated at the same time. But it was so fun to learn and to be able to joke around. And I think also like something that I learned about it was it's the same language whether you're speaking about the gospel or not, because I had a hard time like just normal conversation with people until I kind of realized they're the same words that you use together. And then like once you get the hang of it, it's just so great to be able to talk to anyone about anything, and to really just like let the Lord guide you and help you with that. It was a big thing too. We would introduce ourselves every time, so we would say like, ako po si Sister Peters, taga America ako, nandito ako sa Pilipinas, like 6 months, like that. So it was just really simple. We just introduce ourselves. It was a very happy language and always smiling and greeting people just while you're walking, you know, like they use a lot of English too, I noticed though. So like they would say like, good afternoon po, and like po is a really respectful like form of the language. You just kind of hook it on the end. So yeah, it was nice. Bahay kubo kahit munti, ang halaman doon ay sari-sari, singkamas at mani talong. Oh, see, I don't know. Something mani. Yeah, I don't know all of it. It just names tons of vegetables. So, yeah. Do you remember it? I don't remember it. It's just about like this little house that has tons of vegetables in it. Maybe all the little kids sing it. That's what they'd always try and teach me, but I had no idea what they were saying. Yeah, I just say they probably just don't understand like what it is. I think they're big. They're like super into like celebrities. They like love every celebrity there, and so they view them kind of as like their idols, and so they have their pictures in their house, like posters in movies and stuff. And you know, most celebrities aren't super modest all the time, and they kind of just, I don't think they understand that it's a bad thing just because they love their celebrity or their actress or singer or whoever, and so they kind of just have it in their home. And that was definitely something that we had to work on with them, like to try and help them understand, because it was more like they had no clue that it was a bad thing. So we had to kind of teach them and like help them understand like why. And we'd always give them pictures of Christ instead to like switch it out with temple and stuff like that to help them out. I would probably just say like our body is a beautiful gift from our Heavenly Father, and like we're so lucky that He trusted us enough to have it, that we should take good care of it, and that we should dress appropriately, and to show that we have respect for ourselves and we want other people to respect us as well. And to know that you can dress beautifully and you can look just as pretty with a modest outfit on rather than something else. So, you don't need to pack 2 years worth of like shampoo or deodorant because they have it there. Because like one of my luggages was literally like all like hygiene stuff and like toothpaste, everything like that. But I got there and you can get everything there. So it's not as like third world as you would think. It definitely still is, but you can still get all that stuff there, so you can save room for more clothes. I don't know, like clothes probably, if you're an average American size, take your own, because Filipinos are so cute and tiny. There's no skirts that will fit you, and sometimes not shirts either, but they do have stuff that you can find. For safety, I would say don't feel afraid. And I saw a lot of sisters who are white or fair-skinned that kind of use that as almost an excuse, like, oh, I don't want to talk to them because like it's not safe. But the way I saw it was that as long as you're doing what the Lord wants you to do, He'll protect you. And I had crazy experiences, I never felt unsafe, because the people are so friendly, and anybody would help you if you needed it. Obviously be smart in your decisions and where to go, like during the times of day. But the Lord will protect you, and that's not something really you need to be super worried about. Well, it's just like kind of any other country. There's people who are not good people. And so you just have to be really aware of people, and especially their intentions, because, you know, you are a sister, and if you're from anywhere that's light-skinned, then that's definitely something that they're excited to, like, talk to, or, like, someone to talk to and to be around. So you definitely have to just be aware. There's a lot of times that they'll flirt with you and, like, try and, like, take you on dates or something. So it's just important to always make sure that they know that you're a missionary and, like, the reasons that you're there for. And I never had anyone really give me a hard time about it. And, like, once they understand that, like, you're there and you're, like, on the Lord's errand and, you know, you're a member of the church, then they kind of just back off and they'll be fine. It is always important, though, if you ever feel like something isn't right, even if you walk away from it, to tell your district leader or your mission president, because it's never a bad thing to be on the safe side. Because there were times in our mission, not for me, but I've heard about other sisters that they did have some scary experiences, and definitely you should let the priest sit in on that so that they can help you if they need to. Like, every, like, little city, they have their own, like, fiesta or, like, party, and sometimes they get a little bit crazy. So I remember we were supposed to visit this member, and, you know, my companion was like, I don't know if we should, and so we prayed about it, and we were like, we shouldn't go there. And, like, they were a member, we were just gonna, like, share a lesson because they had a referral for us, but we decided not to go. And, like, later that week we found out that, you know, their neighbors had been drinking a lot, and it's just like with anybody, like, if you're drinking a lot, you know, kind of don't know what you're doing. So I don't know if anything would have happened, but it was nice to know that the Spirit was watching out for us, that, you know, we didn't visit them that day and they weren't offended, and we just went back a different day and it was fine. Well, it's definitely a big adjustment, I think, for anybody, and I think maybe just a little bit more for sisters because we're a little bit more emotional, and a little bit more, like, compassionate towards other people. That my biggest hardest thing for me was seeing people with so little, and it just made me really sad. And sometimes it was hard for me, I just don't want to go, because, like, you know, the places that you're going, and it's really hard, at least it was for me, to like, not be around it, but to see that I was so blessed at home and I couldn't help them, kind of thing. But something that I, like, realized is they're so happy either way. And so for me, you know, just I learned that prayer was a really big thing to help with no matter, like, what emotional side you're dealing with, because it is a lot to take in, and especially in the Philippines, it's a lot different than it is here. But to know that Heavenly Father loves them just as much and they have everything that they need, and especially if they choose to listen to the message that we have to share and to continue and progress in that, then He'll bless them even more than they can imagine. I really liked the animals there, so I touched them all. So I really liked the cows because they wouldn't run away from you. So there was, like, lots of that. And cats. I had a cat give birth at every single one of my houses. So I don't know, they, like, love me or something. They just kind of live in our, like, outside of our door. Stuff like that. Lots of, like, I saw lots of frogs, and I like to just hold everything. So that was fun too. I had a stalker. That was a little bit dangerous. So I had to stay at my house. It happened in 2 different areas. But I had to stay at my house, like, for a couple days while we figured that all out. But I really didn't want to transfer, so I told my mission president that, like, I would promise to be careful, and nothing ever happened, so that was good. One came to church once, which was good for him, but he wasn't there for the right reason, so that was a little sketchy. But I don't know. We had another time we were out in our area and we missed the last bus. We had to walk home. It took us like 3 hours. It was a little bit scary because it was dark and we just had to, like, hope that we remembered how to get home. But we made it, so that's good. Well, for the first one, he came up and talked to us and wanted to, like, know where our church was at first, but then we kind of, like, figured out he wasn't really interested in the church because he wanted the 2 Americans to go to his house. So we told him that we couldn't, and so he kind of just showed up at church and was, like, asking for me and the other American that was there, and he was just kind of following us around, and he talked to our bishop and, like, wanted us to go live at his house, so a little bit hard there. And then he came by our house once, but we just stayed inside. And then the other one, I met him in my 3rd area, and he came to church. I thought he was a member there. Then when I moved to my 4th area, he was at church there too, and they were, like, 3 hours apart from each other, so he would just kind of, like, follow us to church. And then he told our bishop that Jesus told him that he was supposed to watch out for me and take me with him. So that was kind of scary. But then our bishop told him that he didn't tell him that, and he was confused. So he went back, and then he never came back, so it's okay. Probably the typhoon. It was like super, super windy and like rainy, like sideways rain is crazy, and trees like falling down. And luckily no one in our area, like, or our mission really even like got really hurt, but there's definitely homes that were blown down and definitely big winds. So yeah. Probably either like the balut, which is like probably the most common, like it's the bird inside the egg that's, you just eat it. And I didn't love it, but it wasn't horrible. And then probably like the blood soup. So it's like blood, and then there's like organs of various animals inside of it. So it's called toyo, and people think it's gross, but it's my favorite. It's just like little fish that are dried in the sun with salt on them. And so a lot of people don't like them, but I do. You like kind of fry them. They have a different smell, but I loved it. And probably sinigang. It's like a sour soup you can do pork or fish in it and vegetables. Well, I loved all of it, but probably adobo is another like super common one. It's just soy sauce, vinegar, and then usually chicken, but sometimes pork as well. I think probably like one of the hardest things for me was when people, well, it only happened twice to me actually, which I'm grateful for, but they were so close to getting baptized, like they had a date and it was their day and we went to go pick them up and they didn't want to come anymore because they decided that they really weren't interested in the church. And that was something that was really hard for me because like I had pled so hard with the Lord to help me help them, and I thought that they were doing so great. Like both my companion and I thought they were on the right track and they were supposed to show up at the church and they didn't, and that was kind of hard. But I also learned from it that everyone has agency and we have to respect it. And even though like that day wasn't the day that they were to be baptized or to commit to the Lord, but they have that in their hearts, and one day then something might happen in their life that they'll remember that and they'll come back and they'll find him again through other missionaries. So I think a lot of the times we forget the spiritual experiences that happen for us, and so I think that was probably one of my biggest ones where I finally realized that I needed to give myself to the Lord, and I couldn't keep going like half and half, I guess. And so like I remember like the exact day that I like pled with him to help me because I wanted to be the best missionary I could, and I remember the feeling of it being different after that I wanted to be a better missionary. I wanted to work harder. I wanted to go out and teach longer days and help everyone that I could, and something that it wasn't for anyone else, but it was for me, which benefited a lot of other people, that I really came to know our Heavenly Father, and I gained a personal relationship with him, and I knew that he was there with us and helping us and that he loved me. So to anyone who's going to that mission, you're super lucky because you're going to the best mission in the whole entire world. And just always remember that no matter the days that you have or the hard times that you go through, that you're called for a reason, and there's someone very specific there for you that needs what you have to offer, the way that you teach, the way that you are, your attitude, your personality, and they're waiting for you. And so don't ever get discouraged. You'll have a lot of discouraging times, but just always remember that Heavenly Father loves you and that he's so proud and happy that you chose to serve him. And like I said, the Philippines is the greatest place you could ever go. You're so lucky. And you'll just get to meet so many amazing people, and to be able to bond with them and to learn and grow with them spiritually and just in everyday life will be a very wonderful thing you'll hold dear to your heart. And I know that I do. And I've been home for almost a year now, and I think about it every day. And it's mostly on Sundays that I get really sad about it because I just miss it so much. I miss the people, I miss going to church there, and just feeling of the Spirit that they have and the love they have for the gospel and for Jesus Christ and our Heavenly Father. And just really soak that in because it will go by so fast. You'll be home before you know it, and then all you'll have is those memories and those feelings that you felt to look back on and to remember. And just always stay in touch with the Spirit and the Lord, because they'll guide you through everything, and they'll help you know what you need to teach those people.